This week on Another Movie Podcast, we talk about all things Justice League, the reviews, the controversy, and of course, our thoughts.
And including some of the ramifications, is Affleck gonna hang up the bat cow?
And in trailers, I think we saw the weirdest fucking trailer in Deadpool 2. Hello and welcome back to Not Another Movie Podcast. I am Sean Pierce.
And I am Sean Kelly.
And it is all things Justice League this week. I've been excited for this film. I've seen the film. I'll give you my thoughts on it. And we're going to talk about why Sean hates the DCEU so much.
I don't, well, I don't hate the DCEU intrinsically. Like I don't hate people intrinsically. But if there's somebody that comes around to your house repeatedly and sets fire to your bin, you start to hate that person. And that's kind of what's happening with the DCEU.
All right, so let's just kick in straight away into our initial thoughts of this
Spoiler-free
film.
review to start
Spoiler-free,
with.
of course, before we kick anything off. I personally liked it. I thought it was a lot of fun, and sure, it's not perfect. It's not brilliant in any sense of the word, but it's a fun movie. It's great seeing all these characters on screen doing what they do best.
But that doesn't make a movie. Like, I get what you're saying, and there was one bit in the whole film where I thought, that's really cool. But that did not make it up for the entirety of this film. This film was...
I think maybe you're just expecting too much.
Look, maybe. I'm willing to wear this. But I have to say that I'm expecting a coherent narrative. If that's expecting too much, then yes, I'm expecting too much.
I think this is a film for the fans. It's not a film for the critics. And it's not going to win any awards. It's not going to probably even be remembered after next year. But, just to get all these characters going in their first go at this. Look,
yeah.
The way I see it is, look, fair enough, they jumped the gun. This probably should have been, movie 6 or 7. We should have probably had a Flash movie and an Aquaman movie after seeing this, because I think those two characters were probably more the standouts. So we probably should have got this movie down the track. But in saying that too, this is the fourth film from DC. And when you look at the fourth film from Marvel, like we had Iron Man, they knocked it out of the park.
Mm-hmm.
Hulk, so-so. Iron Man 2, so-so. And Captain America was good, but it wasn't great either. So, they're still finding their feet. Marvel's 17 films into this. They've got their shit down pat, and they've knocked it out of the park every time they go for a swing. So let's just give these guys a break. And before you get in...
If you go to a restaurant and you order food and it comes out and it's terrible, are you there like, you know what? The cook tried. It's fine. It's okay. It's a little bit burnt and it's not what I ordered, but, it's okay.
All right, let's go back and think about the timeline of this, all right? So this movie started production basically as soon as Batman v Superman started. So they were already fucked, okay?
Yeah.
So, but then we got Wonder Woman, and Wonder Woman knocked it out of the park. Jeff Johns came on board, and, obviously his fingerprints are all over Wonder Woman, but they're not necessarily all over this. So basically, from what I'm saying is every film from here now should be a lot better than what we got, because Zack Snyder will not be involved in any of those, all right? So let's just get through the murky water first before we get to that nice crystal blue ocean that we've all been hoping that the DCEU will become.
All of that might very well be true, and I was excited for this movie. I want there to be an awesome DCEU, but that doesn't change the fact that this movie is bad. Like, I'm with you that there's blue skies ahead.
It is not that bad. This is what I can't understand. What, like...
We were talking in our spoiler thing, but if I... To boil it down to what I thought was really bad, I've seen a lot of bad movies, but this one was the first, I think really the first one, and this might be more about me.
You can't say you hated this more than Suicide Squad, because I know you hated that with a passion, and still do, but surely you cannot think that this film is as bad as Batman v Superman.
No. This is better than Batman v Superman, and this is better than Suicide Squad, easily.
Yes.
That's fine.
No. All right, at least we agree on that.
But it's just and some, like I said, some was cool, but I should have looked it up. Whoever wrote the script for this needs to never write a script again.
Yeah, it's Chris Torrio, I think his name is. Yeah.
And some of the this is a very common thing, and I had heard this before I went in, and I'm like, oh, it couldn't be that bad. But the CG is atrocious for a
Yeah.
film like one of the most expensive films made. I don't know what they were thinking. What was it? I mean, I assume it was rushed. But what it says to me is that these people don't really care about the movies that they're making, and I think that's the difference.
Yeah, look, I agree on one of my bugbears of this is that it is way too CG heavy. It's way too green screen for my liking, as we've seen already. And I hate to compare, but Marvel have actual sets that these guys work on. It's not necessarily a concrete floor and a green screen behind them. So,
But even Wonder Woman had great sets.
that's what I'm saying. So, this is still the old regime. And, the fact that it came out semi-okay out of the old regime is a plus. But as I said, you just hate DC so much.
I loved Wonder Woman.
I don't think you can just, see through your hatred.
I hate bad, lazy filmmaking. That's what I hate. And that's what it really comes down to. That's why I didn't like Guardians of the Galaxy 1, because it was lazy. That's why I didn't like Suicide Squad, because it was the laziest thing I've ever seen. And that's why this one really irks me, because it is a lazy movie. And yes, it is awesome to see those characters standing on the rooftop with Jim Gordon, bat signaling in the sky, sort of riffing a little bit. But that's not a movie. That is a piece of fan art.
Okay. Well, as I said, I think we're going to have to agree to disagree on this one. As I said, I don't think it is nowhere near as bad as what you're painting it.
Yeah, and that's fair enough. And I've got some people who I really love and respect who quite like this movie.
Yeah.
So
I hope I'm one of those.
yeah, definitely. I was talking more about your son, but yeah, you as well. So don't take I'm just one dude. Don't not see this movie because of me. They need your money. But yeah, I cannot lie and say I enjoyed it when I didn't.
Yeah, well, speaking of my son, he made his film comeback this week, and he came with me to watch the Justice League.
After you almost ruined his cinema-going experience with Fantastic.
Yeah, so the story goes, I took him to watch Fantastic Four. At his request, I maybe should have looked into what the ratings were, and he hasn't seen a live-action film since. And that was nearly 3 years ago. Gosh. As my best efforts to get him to one, he couldn't get to one. So he's made his film comeback this week, and he's funny enough on the same page as you. I said, "Oh, what rating would you give it out of 10?" He goes, "About a 5."
He's a smart kid.
And I said, "Oh well," because we watched Spider-Man: Homecoming at home. I said, "What did you give that?" He goes, "A 7 or an 8." I'm like, "Well, yeah, it's pretty fair. It's a pretty fair assessment."
Yeah.
So yeah, so
this kid's got a future.
You're on the same page as a 7-year-old. Congratulations.
I'm okay with that. If that means that we share that review, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. All right, cool. All right, well, let's kick into the movie news, shall we?
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story.
All right, well, this week we got treated to 2 new trailers, and one of them, I was sitting there thinking, what the fuck am I watching? And that was the first teaser trailer for Deadpool 2. Now, it starts off with Deadpool dressed up as this artist named Bob Ross. Now, I've never heard of this bloke before. Have you heard of him?
Yeah, he's huge on the internet, like big in the Reddit community.
Okay. I've only really seen him in pop vinyl form. So there was this pop vinyl release of Bob Ross, who was the painter. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? And, now it all makes sense after seeing this trailer. But no shit, this was the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life.
I mean, the Deadpool marketing team knows their online audience. They know they don't have to spend a lot of money. They just throw in a few pop culture references and people will share the hell out of the trailer. So yeah, they're getting the best bang for their buck. They're just in tune with their audience.
There was a scene where he's kind of like jerking off a paintbrush.
Yeah, that's what Bob Ross does. He slaps it against the thing to dry it off. And they just went there in the dirty way, and why not?
Yeah. But apart from obviously not understanding what the hell I was watching with Bob Ross, then they cut into really quick scenes from the movie itself, and those quick scenes look pretty damn awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited. Looks like some fan favorites are back and some new things.
Yeah. So, from the little taste that we got, it looks delicious so far.
Again, it looks like people who are, enjoy the world they're making with the little bits that we've seen. Negasonic's back, which I'm pretty happy about.
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm excited.
Yeah, and then obviously we haven't really got to see a little bit. Oh, I don't think we saw anything at all of Cable. I don't
No,
remember
I don't remember
seeing him. So that was cool. I'm glad they kept that under their hat at the moment because realistically, we don't need to see him.
We've seen the painting of him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that was enough. And then obviously a little bit of Domino as well. So as I said,
Yeah.
they treated us with just little snippets of what we expected, but in a trailer that definitely wasn't expected. So
Weird time to drop it as well.
yeah. The next one that we saw was the new Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson film called Rampage, based on the 1980s game of the same name. This one just looks like San Andreas with a fucking monkey and to me. I know it's directed by the same guy, obviously starring the same bloke, but it just looks like another destruction porn movie with some fucking animals in it.
Look, I'm okay with that, but the thing that disappoints me about this is that in the game, it's a person who turns into the giant animal.
Yeah.
And the giant animal is like a humanoid animal. So they've got the giant wolf and the giant lizard, in this way it's a crocodile, but they're not people. So I think they really missed the boat there. It'd be so much more awesome if The Rock transformed into this giant gorilla. Like,
Oh, there's still a chance of that.
look, it still might happen. As some people have said, and I kind of agree, because if you haven't seen the trailer, there's this like alien fog or gas that makes things turn to giant. People are like, well, The Rock is definitely going to get doused in that gas and become a giant The Rock, so he can fight these monsters, which is kind of going there, I guess, but it's not quite the same.
Yeah.
I might see it depending on what the next trailer looks like, but the first one wasn't really.
Yeah, as I said,
really
it doesn't look like anything new to me.
No.
Actually, like I just saw the trailer for Jumanji before the Justice League, and even that one, you're just like, yeah. And now you got The Rock running through a jungle as well. You're like, yeah. And now he's into the city. Yeah, as I said, it's just as you said. The reviews would have to be decent, I reckon, for us to go and watch
Yeah,
it.
I think The Rock's in a bit of danger because he's one of the most bankable stars in the world. Like, who am I to give this man advice? But I think he needs to diversify.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he's going to go back to 90s mummy territory.
Yeah. And it's funny because, as I've spoken about before, he has this TV show on HBO called Ballers, and he's really good in that. And that's more of a drama / comedy piece.
Oh, yeah.
So to constantly see him, in these big Hollywood's big movies, kind of tarnishes what he actually can do. He's a very good performer.
I'll have to check that series out.
Yeah, no, it's a great show. All right, well, as we said before, it wouldn't be a DC film without any backlash, without any controversy. And this week has been full of it. And there's some really good stories here that we want to get through. And it all started with Warner Brothers, who part owns the website Rotten Tomatoes, withholding the Justice League score until 12:01 a.m. of the opening day. Now, this just sounds like pure desperation, and which it was, because it ended up leaking way before that anyway through another website. And the score then was 46%, which I think has now gone to about 40% for the Justice League.
So, yeah, and to clarify, that's just the percentage of raters who say you should see the film, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So basically how Rotten Tomatoes works, they gather all the reviews, they work out which ones are positives, then it gets a tick, and which ones are negatives, gets a tick, then they work out a percentage of that, and that's how, basically the score is calculated. So at the moment, Justice League has actually gone down from when I looked at it yesterday, and it's down to 39%, which is still quite higher than the 27% that Suicide Squad and Batman v Superman got.
I think that's about right. Average rating is 5.3 out of 10, so he's right on the ball.
Yeah, he is. And the sad part is that I'm looking at other films that are in the box office this week. Justice League sits at 39%, and My Little Pony actually sits higher at 45%. So that's a little bit of a worry.
Yeah, that's a little bit strange. I like it.
Fair enough, My Little Pony doesn't have the same amount of reviews as what the Justice League does, but, at the moment it's got 53, and I think Justice League has about 153, so
do you think
there's a big comparison.
Sorry, do you think Warner Brothers are pulling a dodgy here?
Well, I don't know. There was, and then to fuel that controversy even more is that there was a reviewer who said that his review was posted on Rotten Tomatoes, even though he didn't actually submit it, and it was posted as a rotten review. So, the conspiracy lives, in my opinion.
But this is a conspiracy from both sides. Warner Brothers, who partner in the thing, withholding the score, and then on the other side, someone randomly posting other people's reviews to the site. So we've got two competing...
There's a rogue sector inside Rotten Tomatoes who are ignoring the advice from Warner Brothers and just posting all rotten reviews.
There's
on
a movie
here.
in this. Some Marvel spies.
We need to get the Justice League on this to investigate.
Yeah, exactly right. And then we can get all the plot exposition for the first 45 minutes of the film.
No, we saw Cyborg's powers. He can hack into things now.
That's true.
He should be hacking into Rotten Tomatoes website and seeing what the fuck is going on with
Well,
these
maybe
reviews.
he's the one who did it. He's the one who's hacking all these reviews.
He's sabotaging his own film so he didn't have to come back.
He's like, I had a career on Broadway. I don't want people to see this.
Well, even more controversy this week, and this one I actually found is someone had noticed that Joss Whedon, who obviously came in and rewrote some of the script and obviously directed a lot of the reshoots after Zack Snyder's departure, had liked a tweet from a Vanity Fair critic, Jonah Robinson, who stated that Steppenwolf was the worst comic book villain of all time, and not even the villain from Thor: The Dark World comes close. Now, the villain from Thor: The Dark World, was it Malekith the Accused?
Malekith the Accuser, I think.
Malekith the Accused is regarded as one of the worst DC villains of all time. I don't think she's seen Suicide Squad, because I still think the villains in Suicide Squad were probably the worst.
Yeah.
But he liked this review. Sorry, he liked this tweet from this woman. And some DC fans caught wind of him liking this tweet, which goes against basically everything that you should be doing, considering, you're a big part of this film.
Yeah.
And you're agreeing with someone who basically shits all over with the work that you just did. So, obviously, the DC fans on Twitter went berserk, and these are some of the top 3 reviews or responses from those. Did you want to read the first one?
Sure. Joss. Now, people take this very seriously. Joss, you are absolutely repulsive. How dare you even like this tweet? Your fingerprints are all over this film and have yet to voice any kind of support for it. You are despicable and have single-handedly ruined @Zack Snyder's #Justice League.
Look, this person has a point, because I haven't seen him on any of the marketing for this film at all, where he was all over the Avengers. So it is quite strange that he's taken a back step from this.
Well, the Avengers was his film. He just came in to help out, sort of the last minute.
This one is my favorite. It's the third one on our list. It just starts with, "Fuck off. Even Snyder trusted you to take over the Justice League, and you decide to fire Junkie XL, reshoot unnecessarily scenes, make the worst CGI in comic book movie, promote Thor Ragnarok more than you promoted the Justice League, and now this. Your wife was right. You are a piece of shit." That is straight to the point, and it's funny because he actually did come out and say that he'd just seen Thor Ragnarok and it was a modern masterpiece, but he said all about what Justice League is. So, it is quite funny.
I just love the idea that how closely this sort of mirrors what is happening in Australian politics at the moment with Christopher Pine apparently accidentally liking some gay porn on Twitter. And like Joss is like reading something and accidentally likes this anti-review. I think it's pretty funny.
Yeah, it is.
It's quite hilarious. He hasn't responded to it yet, has he?
No, he hasn't responded. As I said, he hasn't said anything at all regarding the Justice League. So this is what is really strange about all this.
I think, look, he came, it wasn't planned. He came on last minute to fix some, or not fix, but just like to finish the movie after Snyder had to back off.
But he's supposed to be writing and directing the Batgirl movies, so
that's true.
It's not like he's just a come and run and he's taking his cash and gone. He's still going to be involved in this universe, so it is very strange.
Yeah, look, I see that. Maybe a little bit unprofessional from old Weedy.
Yeah. All right. Well, there's been a story that's been lingering through all the marketing, all the press of this film, and that's whether Ben Affleck is still going to be involved in the DCEU after this film. Is he going to be involved in Matt Reeves' Batman trilogy? And we're kind of starting to get some information, and he kind of let slip possibly that he may be taking an exit from these films. He basically said that you can't do it forever, so I want to find a cool way to segue out of this role. I don't think Warner Brothers are going to give him a chance to do that, to be honest, because they're going to start pushing the Batman film into production pretty soon, you would think, once the scripts are done.
Yeah.
I don't see another Justice League in the works at the moment. They're working on, obviously, getting Aquaman finished. They've got that Flash movie, the Flash is next, and then they've announced Shazam. So they haven't even announced a second Justice League film, so I don't see him getting a chance to segue out of this film. I think he might just be replaced like they did with, what was his name? Don Cheadle when he replaced Iron Patriot in Iron Man film. I think it'd just be a straight swap.
Yeah, probably. I don't know who you could find that's really... Because Ben Affleck is so... Not iconic, but he's so recognizable.
Yeah,
It'd be hard
I
to
agree.
to just swap him out in that way.
Yeah, and look, I thought he was pretty good in Justice League.
Yeah.
He got a lot of slack for saying he's still, brooding and still, a bit sour. But I'm like, that's what Batman is. It's not like he's fucking happy of everything that's going on around him.
Yeah, I thought tonally he was fine.
Yeah. So, but then once that story broke, a journalist, podcaster / producer, John Campy, reported on his own personal channel on YouTube that he had heard something, and this is basically what he said. I'm hesitant to say anything, but I've talked to a Hollywood producer yesterday, and they gave me the name of who Matt Reeves wants to replace Ben Affleck with as Batman. To be honest, the name caught me off guard, and it's a little bit of surprise. I called someone else later in the day and said, hey, have you heard this? Is there any validity to it? And they said, yes, Matt Reeves wants him. Now, that name is... drumroll, Jake Gyllenhaal.
What?
Hello.
Jake Gill. I love Jake
Still
Gyllenhaal.
there?
I don't know.
I
about
reckon
him
that's
playing...
a fucking great choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
pretty
actually
cool.
really do. I think that's a really good swap. I don't think, obviously, he's a bit small in regards to height.
Him up.
Yeah,
Play great
and
Nightwing.
I've seen him. Yeah, I've seen him bulk up in a movie before, so he can definitely do that part of it. But height-wise, sure, they can probably get away with that. Tom Cruise has been,
exactly
standing
right.
tall on the silver screen for many decades. So I reckon that could possibly be a really good replacement. And he's on the similar age now of what the rest of the Justice
That's true.
League
That
would
is
be.
true. Ben was looking quite a bit older. I think this
Yes.
would only work if they brought back Maggie Gyllenhaal as a love interest.
That's his sister. Why would they bring him?
What?
It's just fucking weird.
I kid. Or do
No,
I?
you don't.
They're just both really attractive people. There's nothing wrong with that. Look, in all sincerity, in a vacuum, I think Jake Gyllenhaal would make a fantastic Batman. Like seeing him in Nightcrawler with that kind of intensity, but as not that kind of mania, but that kind of intensity, I think it'd work really well for Batman.
Yeah, no, I think it's a really good choice if this story is true.
Yeah, I mean, it could just be a guy pulling a name out of a hat, but
Yeah. Look, but I am disappointed because I really wanted to see Ben Affleck go against the Jared Leto Joker.
Yeah.
I know you didn't like him, but
No.
the scene that we did get in Suicide Squad where they almost came face to face was enough of a teaser to get me excited about a film where these two would go head to head. So I'm quite disappointed that might not happen.
Yeah, look, I wanted to see Ben Affleck's Batman go the distance because I've always liked Ben Affleck's Batman, even when the script was terrible. So we'll see.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll jump off the DC train and jump on the Marvel train. And we've kind of mentioned this before, but Kevin Feige is basically coming out and saying that they're so focused on ending the Phase 3 of the MCU is that they're not even going to discuss or publicly discuss anything what's going to happen in Phase 4 until the end of 2019 after the last Avengers film is made.
I think that's a good call because as soon as you start talking about what's coming next, people start losing interest in what's going on at the moment.
But
I'm
I've
sure-
actually quite liked when they've come out at like the D23 convention and you've got this timeline
Yeah.
of films that we're expecting. And, at the moment we don't have that. And it's kind of weird and it's quite sad.
But imagine when it's getting to like Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and people are like, what's next, and then they can come out with a great big presentation, like, we're gonna blow your mind. Here's our next 5 films.
Well, it also adds fuel to the fire that there might not be a lot of Avengers left after the end of the fourth film.
That's true, actually. They might be giving too much away if they
Correct.
reveal the
There
films.
might be too many spoilers involved. So that's possibly why they're keeping that ace up their sleeve. But at the moment, the slate is we've got, in 2018, we're getting Black Panther, the first Avengers Infinity War film, and Ant-Man and Wasp. In 2019, we're getting Captain Marvel, the fourth Avengers film, untitled at the moment, and the untitled Spider-Man Homecoming sequel. And then in 2020, the only film slated at the moment is Guardians of the Galaxy 3. So I assume that one would kick off Phase 4, I would guess. So I don't think they would end Phase 3 with that one, because you would think if this is going into the cosmic realm, is what we're expecting, is that the Guardians would be the perfect choice to start off Phase 4.
They probably can't also say much because there's still those negotiations with Fox about getting some of the rights to these characters back.
True. Yeah, that's true.
So, like, if you want a Galactus or a Fantastic Four, I think you need to finish those off. What film are you most excited about of that upcoming list?
Obviously, I'm really excited about these 2 Avengers films.
Yeah.
We've been building up over 17 films so far to this, to the arrival of Thanos, the arrival of seeing all the stones together in the Infinity Gauntlet, and what chaos he's going to cause to the MCU and the Avengers as we know it at the moment. But after that, I'm actually really excited to see Captain Marvel of all things.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, that's the one I'm really looking forward to. As cool as Black Panther looks,
Yeah, it does look cool.
and as much as I loved Ant-Man, I reckon this one could be a really cool breakout film.
Yeah, exactly right. Just seeing a Superman type character is like, hopefully in the Marvel universe, I think it'd be really awesome. Like, because it has that lightness to it, it has that fun, and it's that quintessential superhero film. I'm really excited, and I love Brie Larson.
Yeah, and the fact they're going back to the 90s to kick this one off, way before everything that we've seen already, I reckon that's really cool.
No, I'm psyched. Yeah, 2019 can't come quick enough. All these films are going to be great, I think.
I'm really curious to see, if this film is based in the 90s, like, where has she been hiding throughout all of this?
Space stuff, I reckon.
Yeah, but, there's been a lot of shit happening down on Earth. She could have come down and helped. Fucking mole.
I'm sure they've got a good reason for it.
Well, as I said, let's hopefully that film explains it. And as you said, Brie Larson is brilliant.
Yeah.
And possibly Ben Mendelsohn joining that as well, which will be just as cool.
Yeah.
All right, let's get off comic books and let's get into video games. And there's a movie being touted, and we've spoken about it before, but now it looks official, and that is Universal Pictures and the Illumination Entertainment, who does Despicable Me and the Minions, are finally agreeing to terms with Nintendo to bring a Super Mario Brothers animated film to life.
Thank God it is animated.
Yeah, we don't want another Bob Hoskins. And who was the other guy in it?
It was John Leguizamo.
John Leguizamo taking on a live-action Super Mario film.
Look, that film has a place, but it is certainly not in modern cinema.
No, I agree.
I think this could be fun. I mean, Mario has gotten sort of more character over the years.
Yeah.
The world is a lot of fun for people who have got a Switch and been playing like Super Mario Odyssey. They can see just how fun the world can be. So I'm down with this.
Yeah, I think this film could be huge and a big cash cow for Universal Studios. And even more so, they're actually thinking of building attractions in their Universal Studios theme parks around the Mario Brothers property.
Gosh, this is how, I mean, Mario is already obviously huge, but you do stuff like this and it really just cements a property like that in the public consciousness. And I think
Takes it to a new level.
Yeah, absolutely. Nintendo, I think, have been a little bit slow to, because they've got some, between Mario and Pokemon and Zelda, they've got some like powerhouse properties in the video game market, but they've been slow to adapt to other mediums. And I think hopefully this kind of stuff will solve that.
Yeah, absolutely. It could be huge. And as you said, it's about time that they jump on this train and start cashing in, even more so than what they're doing already.
We've got the Detective Pikachu film coming out next year, the year after.
Yeah.
I'd love to see a Zelda film. I think that'd be fantastic as well.
Yeah, yeah, it's very cool. All right, and something that I'm really looking forward to because I'm a massive fan of his work, and that is Quentin Tarantino's untitled ninth film. Now, we said already that he's only going to make, I think, 10. He's going to finish at 10, so we're getting closer to that. But so tight is the security around this script that he's written, because the last one leaked and he threatened not to make it at all, which was The Hateful Eight, is that the agencies have to go to his office, sit down in his office, and read the script before making a bid, because obviously he's taking the film elsewhere after the Harvey Weinstein blow up that's happened of past. So he's shopping around his script, and yeah, he's making people come to his office to look at the script rather than having the script sent out to agents and everything else, which normally happens.
Yeah.
So they were talking about this film was going to be based around Charles Manson, but he said it's actually based around more of the year 1969, in which a lot of shit happened rather than just focusing on Charles Manson himself.
He's really spreading his wings a little bit with this film, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot different to The Hateful Eight, which basically, just basically took place in one spot and, let the characters and the dialogue come to life. But this one, as you said, it's going to cover a lot of different stories and have a lot of different parts in it, kind of what Pulp Fiction was.
I was going to say, it sounds very Pulp Fiction-y.
Yeah, so it could be cool if you're telling all these three different stories and somehow bring it all in together like they did in Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, and it might be like the Manson murders are the culmination of these stories, perhaps.
No, it will be very cool. All right, well, last week we spoke about the possibility of a Lord of the Rings TV show. Well, this week we bring the news that it has been confirmed. Amazon has picked up the global television rights for this, and they have committed to a multi-season adaptation, of the story that takes place before the first Lord of the Rings movie.
Which is cool. I'm kind of excited. A prequel to Lord of the Rings. So it's pre-Lord of the Rings, but post The Hobbit.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking it fits in between those two.
Cool. Yeah, I'm down with that. I think there's so many stories to explore in this world, and that's a time that's ripe for these stories. So I'm down.
Yeah, as I said, everyone's looking for their Game of Thrones. And if there's anything that it could adapt to that, it's Lord of the Rings. Yep. And Amazon have put a huge commitment to this, committing to multi-seasons, and the budget of this is just going to be fucking huge. Yeah. If you want to compete with the Lord of the Rings, with Game of Thrones, you're going to have to put up good, serious coin to make it look as good as that. So good luck to them. They've got a big task ahead of them. I wonder if Peter Jackson will be involved at all.
Maybe producer?
As a producer, possibly, because if there's anyone who knows this world better, it's him.
I wonder if they'll try and match the aesthetic of those original films to buy into the nostalgia, because they had a very, particular design motif. Obviously, a lot drawn from the illustrations from the books, but but it still had its own thing going.
Yeah, but even visually, if you go back and have a look, visually, like, they've moved on a lot since those visuals. So, and technology obviously has moved a lot further than those as well. So, who knows? You might want to tie in, or you might want it to look more polished. But I hope it's, not the prequels that we saw with Star Wars, where it looks completely different to what we had from the originals.
Oh, I'm excited. Is there a release date? There's not yet.
No, not yet.
Probably 2019 or something.
No. So, over at Sony, we know already that they're trying to develop their own MCU, we'll call it Sony, the SMCU, the Sony Marvel Universe, and they're going to, this is a weird character to bring to life, but they're going to bring out Morbius, the living vampire.
You know what the kids love? Vampires. Do we have any vampires in our... we've got this guy. Who is it? Morbius. Never heard of him. Let's make him into a movie.
Yeah, so the story of Morbius is that in the comics, his name was Dr. Michael Morbius. He was a scientist who suffered from a rare blood disease and attempted to cure himself, but instead he inflicted a form of a vampire into his bloodstream, and now he goes on his own and kind of becomes a hero in his own right, even though he looks more like a villain.
Yeah, he's one of those characters that floats the line between sometimes he comes out as a villain, and then other times when he's sort of like more in control and composed,
Yeah.
he's a hero. So look, I think there's a story there. The reluctant vampire superhero, but again, they're going down the road of let's make a basically a Spider-Man film without Spider-Man.
Yeah, and it's going to be a big ask. I would wait to see how Venom goes before starting to plan anything else, because even the other ones that they've got released, what was it, Black and Sable, was another one they were thinking of, and now this one, you're just like, let's just see how Venom goes first, because you haven't done really well so far in doing your own shit that hasn't involved the Marvel team. So I would get this one off the ground first before you start greenlighting anything else.
And the Venom film will not be cheap, so it's not like they're sort of hedging their bets here.
Yeah, so who knows? But after now that we've gotten over the Justice League, the next one to look forward to is, of course, Star Wars: The Last Jedi, and the runtime has been leaked, and it's running in at about 150 minutes, which makes it the longest film in the franchise.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. It is. As I said, I don't think they're going to do any end credit scenes. We need to hang.
No, it's not really their style.
As I said, the fact that they're handing the keys over to Rian Johnson for a trilogy, maybe you should have waited for this one to come out too, because if this one comes out and gets panned, you've just handed the keys to this bloke for a whole new trilogy. Obviously, they got faith in him, and obviously they've seen the film, so in Ryan they trust. But we've seen already, like, somehow really bad films come out of studios, and they must think this is going to be a hit, and it comes out and it just flops. So sometimes they just have like tunnel vision and don't necessarily see the wider picture.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's not the case with this film, because it looks damn awesome. So I pray for Ryan's sake that it is a fucking good movie.
I'm sure that they've got an exit clause built into that contract if this film bombs out.
Yeah. So, and we've only got a couple of weeks. I think it's only 2 weeks, which is awesome. It's crazy to think we're going to see the next Star Wars film in 2 weeks. It's unreal. It is insane, and that's the last big one of the year. So I think it's going to go out with a bang. Unfortunately for Justice League, it's only going to have really 2 weeks before it's going to get raped by Star Wars. So it better make some cash in that time, because all the money will be going over to Disney. But who knows how much legs the Justice League film is going to have. And I personally think this film, if the reviews are good, it could be another $2 billion film for Disney.
Yeah. It's going to be weird this year, because there's nothing huge coming out over Boxing Day, is there?
No, nothing really. Well, no, you're right, actually. There's really nothing, huge coming out. So it's more like we'll start getting ready now for the films that will be award contenders.
Yeah.
That's what happens at the end of the year. So that's, funny enough, that's actually my favorite time of the year. I actually prefer, really good films rather than, the popcorn ones that generally we talk about on this podcast.
Cool.
All right, well, one film and the last piece of news for the week, and that is we're getting some details from the Incredibles 2 film. Now, I love the Incredibles, and I know you loved it too. And I still can't believe that we've had 2 more Cars films, or we've had 3 Cars films since we've had a sequel to the Incredibles. Considering how big comic book films are, why not try and cash in a bit more? But from what we understand is that Incredible 2s will pick up exactly where the last film left off, and will focus more on Elastigirl's adventures of saving the world, while Mr. Incredible is left to take care of Jack Jack.
Well, yeah, which is an interesting way. Like, the Underminer will be in it, we know that. But yeah, okay, let's go. I liked the film the best when they were all sort of working together, so I was kind of hoping there would be more of that.
Yeah, look, you would think you'd still get some team up action.
Yeah. Oh, Edna Mode's coming back. That's all I care about.
Yeah, maybe they're going down the Wonder Woman route, getting the woman in the focus rather than having to rely on the man to save the day.
Yeah, fair enough. She did have a much more interesting backstory. I mean, you only got sort of glimpses with her, the pilot. She was a pilot at some point, so you get this idea that she's got some bigger life. So maybe it'll feed into that, which is cool.
Yeah, no, it will be cool. And as I said, I can't wait to delve back into that world, because they set it up so beautifully, and it's a shame we've had to wait so long before we get another piece of that pie.
Yeah, that's the beauty of making animation. You can wait this many years and still just use the same actors.
Yes. All right, well, that wraps up the movie news for the week. So we're going to start talking about spoilers from the Justice League film. So as usual, press pause. We'll hang around for you to come back and then hit play. All right, in three, two, one, spoilers. So we know already that you hated the film.
Look, hates. As I was saying
Well,
before, there
well,
were.
let's.
Yeah.
You mentioned that there was one scene out of a 2 hour film that you did like.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us what that scene was?
The one part where I thought that's really cool was in amongst a really dumb scene was when Superman came back and they're all fighting him because of course you've got to fight. And the Flash is running around behind him, and then like Superman turns to
Yeah.
look at him. That bit was really cool.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah, so
Superman swinging for him and barely missing and that kind of stuff. That was awesome.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was one good part. Yes, I agree. And it was cool that the Flash's biggest asset is something that Superman can destroy like that. So we are still getting the thing that Superman is God.
Superman
in all
OP
of
in this film, definitely.
Yeah.
That's
And,
one. Yeah. Sorry.
All right, well, let's do a run through of the characters.
All right.
I thought Batman in this was very good. I still like the continuation of what we saw from Batman v Superman, and he's come to realize, certain things that obviously the world does need Superman. Where obviously in the other film he knew that he want to get rid of him.
Yeah.
He's starting to accept his age as well. There were times where he's saying that he's done this for 20 years and doesn't know how much longer he can do it. He's actually starting to feel sore. He's starting to feel pain.
Yeah.
And I like that vulnerability of him. And he's just a fucking badass. Regardless if Superman is God or not, Batman is still king of his kingdom and he can still take down anyone that he wants to.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he was cool. I thought there were some contrivances which didn't really make a lot of sense. Like his fight with Wonder Woman when they were sort of all getting the team back together. I'm like, are these people 6 years old? Is that what's going on here?
Yeah.
Because it was like his quip about bringing up Chris Pine from the first film.
Yeah.
Like, why would you like those kinds of things really weaken the character? Like I said, there were some great moments, when he's got all those bruises on his back, and showing his this real person in amongst all of this. That's cool. But then they just, for the sake of trying to get the plot where they want the film to be, they just had the characters do stupid things, and Batman was not immune to that, which kind of takes away from all the good stuff.
Yeah. Wonder Woman, she came out and she was still as dominant as what she was in her own film. I think she was obviously a shining light in this.
Yeah.
I really like that. The fact that, she stood her ground. She didn't go with the flow. She put her voice out there, which was very cool. And what I didn't like, though, was the kind of, and I don't know, it was quite subtle, but I noticed it, was I was starting to see an attraction between Batman and Wonder Woman.
Well, they kind of hinted at that in the last film. Because they've kind of had that flirty correspondence backwards and forwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I don't think it's necessary. And I do think there were... I don't know, maybe I'm just being overly sensitive here, but I think that there were some shots which focused more on her physicality rather than with the male characters, which is a bit of a shame. I don't mind a bit of objectification as long as it's, all across the board.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. Superman, obviously, he's back in town. I was disappointed that he didn't come back in a black suit,
Yeah.
I really wanted to see that, and that was one of my favorite lines growing up was the return of
With
Batman. With the mullet and the black suit. I would have loved to have seen that. I didn't necessarily like when he came back and he was a bit like, where am I?
Yeah.
Type thing. I didn't like that necessarily. But they did try and make a lighter tone of him. They tried to, fix the issues that people had with him when he was back to his usual self, when his brain wasn't still waking up and realizing what the fuck was going on. But the one part that I didn't like was the fact that everyone knows now that Clark Kent is dead because he died and they had his funeral.
Yeah.
So how the fuck is he? Like he was walking around the city as Clark Kent. I'm like, how the fuck to explain this? So I don't know
didn't
how.
even pick up that. That's totally true.
Yeah, I'm like, if he stayed at the farm,
Yeah.
no one saw him. Sure, he could get away with that. But he's walking around dressed as Clark Kent. I'm like, hang on. They had a funeral for him. How are they going to explain how he's come back to life?
I'm sure they must have addressed that in the comics as well, so they'll probably just use the same thing. I wasn't actually dead.
Yeah.
I lost my memory or something.
Yeah, I don't know. But I'm pretty sure they had a fucking open casket at the funeral.
Oh
But
yeah, that's oh my gosh.
so I
What
don't know. I don't know how they explain that one
can I just okay?
without obviously bringing his identity to the picture.
Yeah, or maybe that's the thing. They'll pull an Iron Man with him. Um, in which case he doesn't really need to be wearing human clothes anymore. Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, you touched on something before. My real issue with Superman was that tonal issue. Obviously, they wanted to make him a lot lighter, but the decision was also made that he's going to be messed up when he comes back from being dead because that's all scary and tragic. But those two colors didn't mesh well,
No,
so you
I
had this
agree.
kind of jarring Superman.
Yeah, there was no middle ground. Like there was him angry and then him light. There was nothing of him transforming between the
Yeah,
two.
it was.
Obviously, he flew away back to the farm and maybe he got back in touch with the Clark Kent side of
Yeah,
him. I don't know. But you're right. It was one vast to another vast, or
and
one extreme to another extreme.
I did like his little headbutt war with Wonder Woman. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah,
But the whole fight was silly.
yeah, yeah.
And the fact that they to be honest, I thought the whole resurrection plot line was silly. In the
Yeah.
last film, the final shot is the things coming off his coffin. They didn't need to go down this whole he could have just come back to life. And I think that would have been better. Like, I wasn't actually dead. I was just in hibernation because I'm a Kryptonian. Rather than this
Yeah.
whole forced conflict between the Justice League. It's like, no, we need to bring this person back from the dead. Don't care just by the MacGuffin mother box and no consequences. Like, or consequences for 30 seconds and then we're good. Like, I don't know what they were thinking with that. I don't know whether that plot was going to be bigger in the original film and it kept on getting reduced. But that's a big thing. And it was just kind of, all right, it's done now, let's never talk about it again.
Yeah.
He should have just come back. And the whole idea of like Cyborg and the Flash out there digging up his body, I thought was pretty grotesque. And they had their little backstory. Oh, I was in the explosion. I was whatever. Like
Yeah.
I thought that was what they should have had is Batman should have just had his body. That makes sense. Like Batman has his body in a tank because because he doesn't want just the most powerful being that he's ever known randomly buried out somewhere in the dirt.
Yeah,
Um,
that's good call.
and then like when they needed him, he should have just like shot him into space because there's like there's one thing that we can do, like let's get some sun into him, shot him into space, sunlight, and then he comes back down to Earth and saves shit.
Yeah, that's good call.
It's his plotline kind of irked me, and like there's his relationship with Lois at the moment is I don't find it very natural or engaging.
No,
And
no, I agree.
they're both very charismatic people. I just think like again Lois has been the biggest disappointment of this entire DCEU. I watched the old the Fletcher cartoons with Mika, and these are like 1940s like there's a episode they call the Japatours about evil Japanese people trying to sabotage America. Like it's dated, and yet Lois Lane is so much more interesting and engaging than the Lois Lane that we've got in these films.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, that
No,
really
as I
irks me.
said, I definitely see your point and everything.
Sorry, but go on. Your next character.
That's all right. The next one was Cyborg. Now, I was actually quite disappointed with this one because I thought this was the one they gave the least amount of time to in regards to his backstory.
Yeah,
Yes, they showed, they didn't show anything. They just said you and your mum were involved in a car accident. I
Yeah.
couldn't save her, but I could save her. But even the whole, like, he was a big football player. He was, the star athlete, and obviously things were taken away from him. But they didn't show any of that, and that's just why it comes back to what I said initially, that this film should have been, maybe 3 or 4 films down the line where we could actually, explain the backstory for Cyborg, give him more space. Because when we saw him, he's just this grumpy asshole to his dad
Yeah.
who has to brood around an apartment because he's not allowed to do anything.
yeah,
Well, like, give us more. Like, I wanted to see more of what brought into that, how he was built. Obviously, we saw a little bit of it in the vision of the files that were kept by Lex Luthor of how he was made, but I want to see more of that. I want to see more that developed, and I didn't think he brought really anything to the table because I don't think he was developed enough, in my opinion.
No, I completely agree. And his character was very one tone, which I don't put down to the actor because I thought he was actually, as a person, was interesting, but he didn't have any shade in his character, like in his characterization, because there wasn't enough for him to do. The only reason he was there is so he could do the stupid Deus Ex Machina at the end and pull the boxes apart. Which again, can I just say how silly it was? Because one other bit that I quite liked in this film was the flashback to the old battle with the Atlanteans and the Wonder Woman and the humans against Darkseid's forces.
That looked good.
That was
cool. And did you notice the Green Lantern?
Yes. Yeah, that was really cool. I got a bit excited at that point. But in that one, there's this whole big thing. You've got these 3 sort of priests or something there with the boxes, and there's this whole big song and dance. And yet in this one, in the modern day, it's like, oh, just him, and he puts them together, and that's it. It's like, which was fine, but why set up as this big thing in the like? If you're going to set something up in the film, it needs to flow through to the second one. Why is this new convergence different? Is it because he's desperate, or is it because the apocalypse has changed, or what? It's just that's the kind of laziness that I'm sort of talking about. But anyway, that first bit, the flashback was cool.
But even the story of the Earth Mother box, yes, we saw it being buried. But we didn't see it being brought up again, did we? Was there any explanation for that?
No, and that was silly as well. It's like, just, I teleport down, I get the box. I teleport down, I get the box. But for some reason, he needs to send out people to find the third one because the film needs time.
It was buried under dirt, though. That's what you don't understand.
But it wasn't under dirt. It was in the... And the thing that I did love, though, it's like, the flashback is like the Amazons guarded one box, and they've got like in this big chamber, and it's like, and the Atlanteans guarded one box, the same kind of thing. All these like warriors posted around, and the humans just kind of put theirs in a hole that was like 2 feet deep and walked away. It's like, what?
Yeah. No, it's true. All right, and then the last character, second last character was the Flash. I thought. As much as I liked it, obviously we saw all the good lines in the trailers.
Yes.
And then the lines that were left were a bit hit and miss, and a lot of them were kind of cringeworthy, and a lot of them were just like, ugh.
Yeah, it's like, we get it, dude, you're neurotic. All right, do you have another color to your character, or this is where we're at here?
Yeah. So this is what I'm saying, like, fair enough, we had to rush to get there, but we should have had at least a film for all of these guys first before we get to, so then we can understand the character traits, and they're not necessarily as annoying as what they were when you kind of force them all together. Let us develop them a bit more, so then once they are together, we understand what their dynamics are.
That's exactly
rather than just try and force it.
Yeah, and look, and maybe the film was hamstringed for that reason, but that doesn't mean we can give the film a pass for that.
Yeah.
I thought he was fine. He was. I thought the speed effects were really cool. I love that lightning effect.
Yeah.
I thought it was used just the right amount in the film as well. And they kind of, played with his clumsiness a little bit as a way to limit the effectiveness of Speed Force, which is pretty, a pretty powerful thing. So that was cool. And I liked his sort of relationship with Superman. I thought that was the only one he had any real chemistry with. It was fine. I can see why people are saying that he's the savior of the film.
Well, I thought it was a bit strange where, he's a guy who comes from nothing. He's just going from job to job to job, but he can afford all this technology that we saw. He could afford a suit made out of metal that was used on fucking spaceships or spaceship rockets that go up into Mars that would withstand all the heat.
Unless he stole it all.
I actually thought that his suit was going to be developed or possibly bought by Bruce Wayne and given to him rather than him, as I said, they've said in the thing, he can't hold down a job, so where's he getting the cash to get all this?
That's a good point. Maybe he's the one who should be in jail, not Billy Crudup.
Yeah, possibly. And then, of course, the last one is Aquaman, who I actually quite liked. I think all the Aquaman jokes will definitely set aside. He was definitely the badass of the team. His suit looked really cool. I thought he looked awesome. But just, again, some of his dialogue was just like, oh, come on. It's just more like, yeah, my man. Oh, yeah.
He was too much. He was too broski for me. Like, you didn't need that. You could just had him looking like he does, and being a dude. And again, like, what was his arc? I mean, they kind of set up a little bit with this. The thing that annoyed me most about this film was this kind of forced plot exposition. But yeah, they set up his kind of thing. It's like, you're not a real Atlantean or whatever.
Yeah.
But there's no resolution for his character, for any of these characters really. So he had no story, so therefore just don't find him interesting at all.
Yeah, so that wraps up the characters, and you can, on a whole, you can kind of tell that it was heavily edited. I hope that they do what they did with Batman v Superman, and we do get to see an extended scene, because the scenes where Bruce Wayne goes down to find him, fuck, that was so heavily edited, and
Yeah.
it just moved so quickly that you could tell a lot of it was left on the cutting room floor. And hopefully, and well, we've seen stuff in the trailers where there were flashbacks of Cyborg when he was playing football. So hopefully that will be put back into the film.
Yeah.
So the things that we talked about, they might still be there, but not necessarily in the film. So hopefully they will do some type of extended cut, because you could see this film could easily be, 2.5 to 3 hours if they were giving the time to develop the characters a lot more.
Yeah, I completely agree. Look, I think there's a good film somewhere in there, but it's not what we got.
Yeah. I remember seeing something on Screen Junkies where they detailed the story, the overall story from now, and they are doing. There is a really good story there. They're just not executing it. So, as we said, hopefully this is the last film of that regime, and hopefully we'll start to see the wider picture and things brought properly to the table than what we've been given already.
And and I have to agree with that review that the villain was terrible. Like, who cares who this person was?
Yeah.
It just makes the Amazons look like trash in the first film, and it doesn't really do anything else. When Superman came at the end of the film and showed that he was so much better than Steppenwolf, and then he's like, oh wait, I've got to go and save civilians for some reason, even though I could just pick this guy up and throw him into the sun, and the film would be like, why doesn't he just do that? Takes 2 seconds, and then he can go and do everything else. And then he gets killed by his own parademons, which sounds really silly. And then did you stay till the second after credit scene?
Yes.
Like,
Which
and
we'll
then
talk about. We'll save that part for the end, because I reckon that was probably the best part of the film.
Oh yeah, but there's something that annoyed me about it, which dealt with Steppenwolf. Okay, we'll talk about that later on.
The part that really annoyed me is from Steppenwolf is that they still can't escape from the blue shining light going into the sky.
Yeah.
Like, we've seen this so many fucking times now, and so many times so many people have bagged this continuously, and they're still throwing it in all these damn movies. It just really annoys me that they can't think of anything original other than a blue light shot going into the sky, which is a portal to come either bring shit down or go back up. Think of something original. Like, I didn't have as much issues with Steppenwolf as what a lot of people were saying. I didn't think he looked as bad as what I was expecting him to be. But in terms of originality, there's just nothing there. There's nothing we haven't seen before, and that was quite disappointing.
I think they needed to not have the cosmic bad guy for this film. I think they needed someone earthy and grounded to bring everyone together, and build up to the cosmic enemies.
Yeah, I agree. All right, well, let's talk about the best part of the film, and that was what I thought it was anyway, was the scene at the end of the credits, not the mid-credit scene, the one at the end.
Yeah, the mid-credit scene was cute.
We saw when they were filming this that Ben Affleck released some test footage of Deathstroke, and we all thought it was going to be part of what his film would be in the Batman film, the one that he was writing, directing at the time. And then all of a sudden we get this, which, stupid me, I read a story, so I already knew it was coming. And the end credit scene is that we're in Arkham Asylum. They open up Lex Luthor's cage, and there's this bald guy in a straitjacket just laughing. So obviously he's escaped. And then we get to see a boat traveling to a bigger boat on the middle of the ocean. And inside that boat is Deathstroke, and he's meeting with Lex Luthor and saying, it's cute that these guys have formed a team. How about we form a team of our own? And then Deathstroke takes his mask off, and we were curious whether Joe Manganiello was going to have a part in this franchise at all, because considering that he was bumped from the possibly the Matt Reeves film, and he looked fucking awesome.
Yeah,
the
he
suit
did look
looks
really cool.
Too bad it was behind some really shit green screen, but that's another story. But he looked awesome. The suit looked cool. But now I don't know how this storyline fits into anything.
Well, that's the point. It doesn't. Like, this is what frustrated me. The last time we saw Lex Luthor, he's like, "Ring, ring, they're coming," or "Ding dong," or whatever it is, like crazy in a cell. And in this film, he's like Captain Suave on a boat, saying, "We need to form our own evil team." Like, there's no connection there. They might as well be two different characters.
Now, I wasn't sure what the team that he was talking about was, but my son said that he watches Teen Titans, and there's a team called the Justice of Doom, which involves Lex Luthor and Deathstroke. So that could be what it's called. I don't know if it's just a Teen Titan things, but that could be cool. But again, I don't know where it plays out in this universe. We haven't got a Justice League 2 in the pipeline, so we're getting a villain from Batman, we're getting a villain from Superman. What film does it fall into? I don't know.
To be honest, I think we're chasing Marvel's tail a little bit here. What can we do that they haven't got yet? They don't have an evil team yet. We'll throw something in. We'll work out the details later.
Yeah.
In all sincerity, I think that's where they've gone.
But
with
I
this.
said, where it falls into though, what film it falls into, I got no idea.
Well, do they know? That's the question.
No idea. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. You would hope so. Fingers crossed, because it's a cool idea, and as you said, it could be something a lot cooler than having something taking part in the cosmic realm, as you just said. Something more grounded, and that could possibly be it.
Yeah, but we'll see if they've even planned that far ahead. I'm being very pessimistic, but
throwing the Joker in there as well, that could be badass.
Yeah.
And then whatever villains that are going to be in Aquaman and the Flash Paradox, who knows? But
it would be cool to have a movie just of the villains, and at the beginning of the film, they all get together to do evil stuff. But very quickly, the whole film is just the it falling apart. And then you've got like Deathstroke versus the Joker versus Lex Luthor. They just all try and kind of like destroy each other. That'd be a great film.
Yeah. All right. Well, that wraps up our discussion of the Justice League. Do you agree with what we said? Do you disagree with what we said? Let us know in the Facebook post of the show. And I always love a nice, healthy debate. So the more we talk about it, the better. All right, well, that wraps up this episode of Another Movie Podcast. I am Sean Pierce.
And I am Sean Kelly. Sean Marvel fanboy Kelly.
Sean Conspiracy Boy Kelly. Corporate sellout Kelly.
I wish. Give me the fat checks, guys.
All right, let your week be a good week. Until next week.